probably be dead. It's the Sansbury Show, Rock 1069.
Welcome to Wednesday morning on the Sansbury Show on Rock 1069. We're online for you at WRQK.com. If you missed yesterday's program, that's where you can pick up the podcast. Now, what you will not get inside that podcast, however, is New Turd Tuesday. There is music streaming issues, apparently. We can run every song out over the air, but once we start putting them in repurposed shows on the internet, that all of a sudden is a problem. So you will not get Bully, Atom Bomb, sorry, Bullies is what I meant to say there. The name of the artist is Bully. And this wasn't that good. I called it a Shazam song. Like, if you're watching a movie, you're like, dude, is that good? That song might be good. Shazam that. I want to know what that is. And then you see it, and you're like, all right, I'm going to put that on that playlist. And every time you're cleaning the house and this song comes up on the playlist, you're like, yeah, all right, Siri, skip this one. I think that's kind of how it's one of those songs. It's not so bad that you're like, dude, turn it off. But it's not that good. We also get to do Sam Hunt, Country House. I'll say it about this guy until they bury me. Great writer, not necessarily the best performer I've ever seen. But he's a pretty good writer. By the way, there it is, the chicken on the rooftop. And I said yesterday, what in the hell does this mean? What the hell are the chickens doing on the rooftop? And I just missed it. I didn't check a lot of my messages until we were done with the segment. But you guys had all shown me. He's talking about the weather thing, the metal chicken on top of the house that kind of, when the wind blows, it kind of shows you the direction and all of that. That's what he meant. Never saw it. Never, and just completely missed it. It was just one of those things where it's just like I just completely forgot that those were a thing. That's happened another time with New Turd Tuesday. And I believe it was Morgan Wallen. Red Letters, Red whatever, and Red Roads, and Red Dirt, or whatever that song is. And I was like, Red Letters? What the hell is he talking about? It's like, is he talking about, like, politicians, like red versus blue, and, like, the R next to their name? Is that what he means? And people had written in here and had texted in at 330-450-7625 and said, no, Stansbury, you idiot. You were raised by a minister, you don't know he's talking about the red letters of the Bible? And I was just like, oh my God, man. Like, I just completely, sometimes you miss it, right? Like, sometimes you just don't think of something. I'm like, oh my God, completely missed that. So that's what the chicken on the rooftop means there. Completely just forgot about that one yesterday while giving you that new Sam Hunt Country House. We also had new Black Keys for you on the game, the name of this. Now, I like them, so I just kind of like what they do. This isn't my favorite Black Keys song. I like them when they're a little bit more distortion in the guitar, a little bit more blues in them. A lot of you guys felt like this was very Beatles-esque. I didn't think of it until you guys said it, but then what Tim texted it in, and I was like, oh God, he's right, you can hear it. It kind of sounds like a little like Leonard. A few of you kind of felt like the music actually sounds like Tom Petty. Yeah, I guess I could hear that too. I'm a big fan of both the Beatles and Tom Petty. That may earworm me. On the Game by the Black Keys, I think that could be one of those songs that I don't think it's a smash. I don't think it's a hit. But as I keep listening to it, it'll be like, oh, dude, that's a really good album song. That's a really good album track. And there's, we need those too. Most albums aren't going to be 11 smash hits in a row. Not everything can be Appetite for Destruction. Not everything can be Pearl Jam's 10. Not everything can be the first Black Sabbath record. Like, not everything, right? Like, not everything can be that. And so you need a little filler occasionally. So if you missed anything from yesterday's program, pick up the pod. But like I said, you don't get New Turd Tuesday in that. What you will get this morning at 9 o'clock is apparently the compliment we're giving women. Men are giving women a compliment that we should not be. They feel as if, the women do, that this is backhanded, and it just proves how little men know about women. I don't get defensive about that, because there's only been 10,000 pieces of entertainment made around the premise that men don't really understand women. It's literally been every show or every movie I've ever grown up with. Men are dumb. Women secretly run the house. The man goes somewhere for 8 hours, comes home, and somehow, dude, he's able to live out there in society. But once he gets inside the four walls of his house, he's a dope who has no idea how to do anything. Welcome to television, right? And so, but apparently there's this compliment that men have been giving women, and I have told my better half this. I have told my girlfriend. And apparently this is not a good compliment. So we'll get there coming up at 9 o'clock. Also at 8 a.m., we'll take a look at road trips versus flying. There's been a lot of problems inside the airline industry over the last couple of months. I just saw another photo the other day of a pilot fixing one of the windows on the plane where their passenger was going to sit right before takeoff. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Open that door. I went off. Right? Like, let me out of the door. I'm one of these people. I never used to be afraid to fly at all. But the older I get, I think that has something to do with it. And the more we start seeing stories like that, the more I'm like, nah, man, I'm just not into the idea of it. Would I do it? Like, if my mom dies, am I going to fly to Vegas to go be with my family in that moment? Sure. But, like, I didn't go to Vegas last holiday season, and that was one of the reasons why. Where I was like, I don't know about the plane thing right now, dude. I don't know. People go, you're so much safer in a plane than the car. Yeah, but I had to come here today. I don't have to go to Vegas. I want to. I don't have to go to Vegas. I have to be here right now. So I'll get in the car and take that risk, so I could stay alive. When I go to Vegas, it's just being yelled at about how I'm not married. You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe I don't fly then. Maybe I won't do that. So we'll take a look at road trips versus flying. We'll do that coming up at 8 o'clock. And also at 7, apparently Sylvester Stallone is now dealing with some problems on his show Tulsa King. I believe that's Paramount Plus that carries that. They've had a casting agency that has now quit Tulsa King over how Sylvester Stallone is treating extras on the set. We have some quotes here. We have some pieces of information, and we'll take a look at Sly and whether or not that's a problem. And also at 7, if you're dealing with rage, how are you dealing with it? They say without a shadow of a doubt, there's a system that works, and I believe this, having done it. I believe this. This will be one of those things that people tell you, this new hippie beta crap. And it actually goes all the way back to Marcus Aurelius. This is a piece of advice Marcus Aurelius had given the world all the way back in the day. So it's not some new betas. It's not new beta or therapist hippie crap. It actually comes from a man's man. And how you deal with rage, and I think a lot of people are going to be shocked by this, but it's an easy system, and it absolutely does work. We'll deal with that coming up in the 7 o'clock hour as well.
If you leave, you'll miss this on the Stansberry Show.
All right, so yesterday we talked about Disney adults. And maybe not all of you heard that audio, so I'm going to give that to you again. But inside that conversation, I talked about me and my life and something I'm embarrassed by. And people hated that. And the truth is, I think I may have used the wrong word. So I'll circle back to that, and we'll handle that next on Rock 106.9.
Live from the Hall of Fame City. And just as bad as NFL officiating. The Stansberry Show. Rock 106.9.
330-450-7625 to text the studio. You can also use the microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio or reach out on the socials, The Stansberry Show. So yesterday, a little later in the program, I played you a piece of audio about Disney adults. They're kind of annoyed about the fact that they get called Disney adults. They don't feel as if anybody else gets called hobby then adult, right? This is their take.
People don't call people baseball adults. Why do they call them Disney adults? We're Disney adults. We enjoy Disney as children. We enjoy them. We enjoy Disney as adults. Why do we have to be, named Disney adults? No one else is. You're not a football adult if you played football as a child and now you go to football games.
Right.
I mean,
and we don't judge.
Well, are sports designed for children? Disney kind of is. Like, that's Disney's whole thing, is we were creating entertainment to give to children because so much of entertainment in the world is geared towards adults. I mean, that's kind of how Disney was birthed, no? I mean, that's kind of like the thing. And so I don't, sports is one of those things that I'm not sure it's designed for kids, although we know kids are going to be involved in it, and that's why we demand athletes be role models, right? But I don't think the designation isn't for children.
We don't judge at all. Go to football. Go to the games. Paint your face. Wear your little cute little.
Yeah, and you guys have a mascot that you don't take pictures with too. So don't be mad at me for taking a picture of Mickey Mouse.
And I mean, it's true. I've seen grown men run through Progressive Field to get a picture of Slider. And I mean run through that stadium to get a picture with a mascot. Is it that different? We were talking about that a little bit yesterday. And I had said, I think my generation, I'm a Gen Xer, I think we kind of ushered this in. You know, my dad didn't have a Lone Ranger man cave in his house. Men were men, right? My dad would have been, he would have been caught dead before he adult, and it's okay to still hold on to a lot of my childhood. eBay allowed you to buy your childhood, and there's a lot of that. My generation kind of ushered a lot of that in. We did. Whether it be good or bad, right? And there's a lot of debate on that either way. And we were kind of talking about childish versus adult things yesterday, and I had said one of the things that I still kind of have in my life that society does view childish is I am still very much a video game player. Now I had taken a long break, and now I'm kind of back into it. I started playing Diablo 4, and if you're a video game person, you know that game will suck you right in, man. There's a lot of hours that go into that. And while talking about that yesterday, I think I said something that was not all that accurate about my life. I said I'm embarrassed by the fact that I'm still this much of a video game player at this point in my life. I'm in my late 40s. A lot of people took issue with that because sometimes if I say this is how I feel about something, people feel as if I'm judging them if they do it, and I'm not really. I don't know you. I'm judging me, which I think is okay, right? If that makes you feel a way, I think you need to look at that kind of and not necessarily be so upset with me. Now, some people weren't upset. They were just making the statement of, look, man, I still play a ton of video games. I had a Pong when I was a kid, and I still do this. And I'm not embarrassed. Embarrassed may have been the wrong word. Because I don't necessarily care what other people think about the fact that I'm playing video games. I care about what I think. Embarrassed might not be the right word. But sometimes I feel as if I have a hard time relaxing. I'm such a complex person in the sense that I am lazy, and yet I have a very hard time relaxing. Because all I hear is that inner voice in my head, that inner monologue of, you're lazy, you're fat, go do something, you should be reading, you should be working harder, you should be doing this, what about this, you got to capitalize, there's only so many years left, get this done, don't do this, what are you doing just laying around doing this for? I feel guilty about how many hours occasionally I can spend on the Xbox. Now, most of it's done Friday or Saturday and Sunday early morning before the world gets going. I wake up really early, get a little coffee, put a little couple of hours into Diablo, and then move on with the day. But like if her and I don't have plans, okay, like 2 weekends ago, her and I didn't have plans on Saturday. I had nothing going on. So I woke up at 5 a.m. and played Diablo till about 11. That's crazy for a man my age. That's crazy. Especially when I think about how, I mean, I have side hustles. I have other things I'm doing that bring in money besides doing this. I think it's important that people have 2, 3, 4, 5 revenue streams these days. And so I'm trying to do that. Do I have enough of them? I do not. I've got a shelf full of books. I've read 6 books this year. That's a lot. For April, that's a lot. Could be more. Could be more. And so sometimes there's guilt that happens there. It's not necessarily embarrassment, but I do feel guilty. Now, time sucks are part of life. They are. You got to give yourself some time to relax. And I would agree with that. And I do kind of like video games for that because it kind of pulls me all the way into that world. My hands are busy, my eyes are busy, my mind is busy. I'm way less likely to pick up the phone and be like, oh, I want to search for that on Amazon. I'm way less likely to get a little bored during something I'm watching. I'm invested in. I think it's a better use. All right, let's put it into the thing of kids and over and over. Like re-binging something, I do it. We all do it. That to me is a very big waste of time. I mostly try to do it. I don't always hold up on this, but I try to do it just as I'm going to bed. Like, I'm a big Aaron Sorkin guy. He had done The West Wing. He had done Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. He had done Sports Night. And one of his big shows, ran for 3 seasons on HBO, it's called The Newsroom. And so I've been binging that again at night before bed. You know, you start an episode, you see 10 minutes of it. Next thing you know, 6 of them ran overnight when you were sleeping, right? It's kind of one of those things. I try not to do a lot of that during the day because it's like that to me it's like I know what they're going to say. I already know the end result of this. I know all of this already. There's nothing new coming down the road. At least with gaming there, I'm invested on a couple of more different levels. I'm using some thought there on like, where do I have to go? What do I have to find? Oh my God, I got to make that potion for this, or you know what I mean? And stuff. There's some thought that goes into it. There's some puzzles built into games that I think are beneficial. I don't think it's the reason to tell your kid not to do their geometry homework and just play Diablo. I'm not saying that, but I would rather be invested that way than just laying around watching something I've seen 10,000 times. Now again, I'm just talking about what I would rather, not necessarily what you need to be doing. But a lot of people really dragged me over that embarrassed word yesterday. And you guys were technically right, because that's not the feeling I have. But the more games I play, the more guilt I feel for sure.
Give Stansberry a piece of your mind. Use the TalkBack feature on the iHeartRadio app and let him know just how wrong he is. It's just wrong. The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show. You can text the studio at 330-450-7625. By the way, the Guardians lose the White Sox yesterday, 7-5. They'll play again today. Tanner Bybee out there for the Guards today. We had been talking about binge watching shows versus playing a little video games there. It got brought up because of a conversation yesterday about Disney adults. About adults who go to Disney as a hobby, and I think it's weird, but I'm into plenty of weird things. We also talked a little yesterday about how some people actually have children and go without their kids, and a listener of mine, Steve, is doing that come Saturday. He and I messaged back and forth a little bit yesterday. He says his wife already got them matching outfits for it. So they're going, they already told their kids, they're going, told their kids they're not taking them, have matching outfits for it. I think it's weird, but I do like the fact that you enjoy one another. I'd rather have you in matching outfits, be in that couple, versus the couple that rolls over in bed, sleeps back to back, and hasn't spoken in 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have you be that. So we were talking about it, and yesterday when I was talking about video game playing, because, talked about what's childish and what isn't, and of course games is going to come into it, I had used the word embarrassed about the fact that I still do it. That's not the right word. Sometimes I can feel guilty about it, right? About how often I'll do that. Most of my playing is done Saturday and Sunday morning before, she wakes up and before the world gets going. A little coffee, maybe a little wake and bake, and a little Diablo 4, right? But occasionally, it can be a little too long, right? So Katie wanted to ask, and this is a decent question. She says, would you feel as guilty if in this hypothetical you were playing golf as you are known to do versus playing video games? Would you feel as guilty? Because she's like, golf, you're talking about how you played 5 hours of Diablo 4. She's like, plenty of times you can be out on the golf course 4 or 5 hours. Well, you're not wrong. My least favorite way to play golf is when it's busy and it's going to take 4 or 5 hours. I like playing after work alone when you can play 18 holes in about 2 hours. But you're not wrong. Do I feel guilty while on the golf course? Yes. Have I felt so guilty while being on the golf course that has got in my mind and led to bad swings and bad scores? Yes. Part of this is a me problem. Part of it's I can't turn off my father's voice in my head problem. Get your lazy ass out of your bed, Daniel. Only the boring can be bored, Daniel. My sons are intelligent. You're not bored. Stop being lazy. Get down here. Help your mother. You're going to sleep your life away. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And so I just always hear it in my head. There's no shutting it. Also, I have a job that's not necessarily... I have a job that's stressful. It's not necessarily difficult. It's harder than people think. If I brought most of you in here and said, okay, here's the prep, here's how this works, here's how you pause the log, here's this, go. I think people would figure out, oh my God, dude, this is way harder. Like, way harder, like most jobs, right? But I feel a little guilty about this too. Decently compensated for something that's not necessarily difficult. Stressful, yes, not necessarily difficult. I have guilt over that too. So I think those things get combined together sometimes. Where it's like, man, I felt guilty about how my day went. Now I'm at home after my day's over, and I'm feeling guilty about what I'm doing right here. Now, time sucks are part of life. They are, absolutely. They are absolutely part of life, and relaxing is part of that. You can't just be all systems go all the time. You will burn out. I think the stereotype of gamers has kind of been... The stereotype's not as harsh as it used to be. And I think that that's the way it should be. Right? Because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. As a matter of fact, I said I would rather my kids play too many video games than watch too many television shows. Games give you puzzles and thought process and things like that, and you know, now it's just you know, shows I don't think do as much of that, depending on what you're watching. Right? Why I would let myself off the hook on the golf, Katie, versus the playing the video games would be this. That's a skill I care about whether or not I get better at. I can set goals there. Yes, you can do that with gaming. I would personally care more about achieving my goals on the golf course. Also, I'm outside, screen-based. It's a digital world, you know. Now there's plenty of, and then every time I drive home from the golf course, I think to myself, that's how I do that tomorrow, or that's what I need to talk about, or this. Clearing your mind out versus obsessing about it does open up avenues for new thought. So that's interesting, because you're not wrong. They're both hobbies. They're both time consuming. They're both massively expensive if you're into them at the level that I am. Although with, you know, Xbox Game Pass and all of that, I didn't even pay for the last 3 games I played, outside of paying for a streaming service, right? It's kind of, they've turned video games into, well, iHeartRadio. It's all just there, and just press play on whatever you'd like to play, right? It's kind of like the new thing with gaming. But I would view golf very different there. And maybe that's because that's how society would view it. Maybe that's one of those of the fat loser in his mom's basement is not accurate about video game players, especially these days. Especially when you start talking about what mobile gaming did, what cell phone gaming did. Like, Jesus, dude, that exploded that whole industry wide open. Wide open. So, no, yes, I would feel guilty out while playing golf. Probably less so while than while I'm playing video games. And I do think there's a little bit more of a out in the world benefit that comes with that versus me just staring at another. It's not all that hard. It is just a little stressful. So maybe just give yourself that break, because maybe you just need it.
Don't blame the station. We expected you to cancel him by now.
Well, my horoscope said that I should.
Welcome back to the Stansbury Show. A little wet out there on my way in this morning. Maybe give yourself some extra space between you and the other drivers. I know you know what you're doing, but do the people around you, do they know? Maybe not. Be a little careful out there. Looks like Sylvester Stallone has got some PR problems. He has been the star, and I guess the brainchild behind a hit show on Paramount Plus, Tulsa King. Now, I started watching this show, and then it just got to the point where I was like, oh my God, this is not good. Like, once they started selling nitrous gas and the local biker gang got involved, I was like, oh, right. And the Sons of Anarchy about to fight with Rocky, and I'm out. Right? I was like, okay, we are done. And I jumped off that, right? But people love this show. And I'm not right about everything. It's just about 96%. There's about 4% of the time I'm wrong. So maybe this is one of those, and some shows like that. But the working conditions on Tulsa King aren't great, apparently. There was a private Facebook page that was for Atlanta-based actors and the like. And this is like, you know, the extras and people like that. Stallone, apparently, and then an unnamed director were accused of calling some of the extras ugly or tub of lard and fat guy with a cane. Now, it does not tell me here whether or not this was said to these people or within earshot of them. Neither one are great, and I'm not sure I have an excuse for either. But what I will say is, you are on set. You're the director, you're the star of the show. If things don't go well, nobody's going to the caterer, nobody's going to the third actor, they're going to those two and saying, why is this not a hit? And we all know we want to see pretty people on television. We don't? Then how come we make fun of Lizzo as much as we do? We want to see pretty people. It's what we want. How many times have you thought to yourself about a person who's better looking than you? That person's too ugly for TV. You've thought it a million times, right? Because there's a standard. Now, extras isn't the same thing as like a leading man. And so I don't think I would necessarily concern myself with it all that much. Also, in Tulsa, how skinny am I expecting most people to be? I feel like there's going to be a little bit of that where it's like, well, isn't this what Tulsa is? Apparently, one of this was said to somebody directly and said that it hurt his soul to hear himself described that way on set. Apparently, Stallone then suggested that production crews bring in pretty young girls to be around me instead. So now Roselock Casting says, we're out. We're leaving. We're done with this show. Quote, we wanted to send you an update on the happenings here in our casting world. We have chosen to part ways with Tulsa King. We will be finishing up next week, and the 12th will be our last day. That's a couple of days from today. We will send well wishes to whomever takes over the show. We thank all of you great background artists for your continued support, it read. And in response now, the executive producer and director Greg Zisk had told TMZ that no insults were hurled at the extras on set, but he also said that Locke brought in older background actors who should have been in their 20s and 30s for a scene in a hit bar. He also said Stallone's wife, Jennifer Flavin, was present during filming and that the star never said anything about wanting pretty girls around him. Yeah, I mean, if his wife is there, I can't imagine that's what he said, right? No married man, unless you're allowed, wants more pretty women or that. Like, then I can maybe, but if she's there, no man is like, you know what I need? Bro, can you pack up Temptation Island and put it right here in front of me while she's sitting next to me? Can you do that, please? That's what I want. Like, that I don't believe. That I don't believe. Now, do egotistical men who are aging out of being able to be on the screen at all, Sylvester Stallone, do they still want young people around them? Especially young, pretty, let's call them women, young, pretty women, to make them feel. Reason why people date down. You're trying to hold on to your every single people back in the day. If you brought money in, it was like we just have to deal with it. They're bringing the money in. He was bringing in a ton of money, trying to give us what we want.
Oh, you're asking yourself, is he trying to be wrong?
Insinuating that I'm dumb.
Time, you may have known that over the years I have had a little bit of an anger issue. I can get angry. Used to be it didn't take a whole lot to get me a little worked up, right? Some unresolved grief, knocking around the body, not knowing the best way to deal with that, and then that turned into some anger. And that was pretty easy to diagnose once I spent a couple $1,000 having somebody else diagnose it. Right? That became a little easy. But rage is a big thing, man. You see it everywhere. I mean, you see it in these videos online, people getting in fights in, you know, fast food places or the grocery store, or traffic, another big one, right? So how do you deal with it? What should you do? Well, they've run some studies out of Japan. And they say they expected their method to actually suppress some anger. But they claim, no, it didn't do that. That they say when people do this with their rage or anger, that it almost always eliminates the anger entirely. And they say this is important that you try it because uncontrolled anger can destroy your life. It can. I don't think it destroys most people's lives, but it absolutely could. You'll make mistakes at work. That could be problematic. You could lose your job. You can make mistakes at home with your children or your spouse, and that could be a problem. People will forgive you, yes, but what you've said will rattle around their head forever. There's an argument at home. Trust me, you will be forgiven, yes. Forget? They're not real big into that one. They're big into reminding you every last thing you've ever said. So what do? Well, they ran some studies and they have found out that writing down what you're angry about, and they suggest ripping up the paper. I don't know how important that part would be, but like crumpling it up and throwing it away would probably be good enough. That write what you're angry about on a piece of paper, not on the internet, on a piece of paper. The emotion comes out, you feel better. And you didn't make the mistake of saying the thing that you wrote down to somebody else that's out there forever. You have. There's a word for this. It's called journaling. Now, another way to say that is having a diary, which we in society would tell you is what? Feminine. Right? As soon as you hear the word diary, you think, no man has that. Which is why we invented the word journal. Right? And not invented. That's not why we invented it, but that's why we started to use that word again. Is journal. It is absolutely beneficial in your life. 100%. This is not something I created. It was advice that I took. Struggle with from time to time. Nobody is perfect. But since trying to implement these things into my life, all of those problems have gotten better. I wouldn't say any of them are fixed with me. I have to stay vigilant on them. But they are better. But because having a diary is considered to be feminine in our society, and it is, a lot of men are going to snicker at this, sneer at it, while still being angry. That's what I have Slayer for! Slayer wrote all those goddamn songs down, bro. Like, you know that, right? Like, that's literally how songs get written. These are the emotions in me. I want to get them out. Oh my God, I'm going to write a song about it. Otherwise known as journaling. You're going to be told that this is beta and this is soft men and oh my God, men and their emotions. Oh my God, this new therapy obsession has got men being weak and sissified. Nope. You're dead wrong.